But if you speak with Carter, you know he knows what he's talking about. He knows the issues. He's fighting hard for us. He's very passionate about it. And he's a hometown boy. So let's give it up for Carter Turner.
Thank you all very, very much. Boy, it's great to see a room full of Democrats. I am so proud to be a Democrat right now, I have to tell you. Proud to be running with Jennifer and Tim, and to be up here with all of these city council men and women from Roanoke. You know, I did an interview this morning, actually in my kitchen for television, and the woman interviewing me said, all right, you're a Democrat, you're running in rural Virginia. How do you, what's the deal? Have you completely lost your mind? And I thought, you know, that's really the problem right now. And I sort of straightened up in my chair and I said, let me tell you why I'm a Democrat running in rural Virginia and why I'm going to win. Because Democrats are figuring out how to talk to rural voters again. We're figuring out how to talk to working class people because we are offering solutions to problems. We are talking about wage gaps. We're talking about broadband. We're talking about education. We're talking about an opioid crisis. And we're talking about Interstate 81, a road that kills people every 2 months in the Roanoke Valley. We have to fix that road. Being a Democrat in 2018 is about standing up for government that can help people in their lives, to identify problems that people have, and to identify solutions and to work for those solutions. Because I'm telling you, the contrast between Democrats and Republicans right now could not be any more stark. We're on the right side of these issues, and we're helping people. We're standing up for fairness, we're standing up for justice, and we're standing up for the most vulnerable people in our community, including the environment. So thank you all so much for everything that you do. We have 8 more days. Let's continue to push and push and push. Everything that you've been doing for months, let's continue it and ratchet it up another notch because we can win all of these races next week. We can and we must continue to fight. So thank you all.
You heard it here in the press. If you elect Carter Turner, Virginia Tech's going to be undefeated next season.
That's great.
It's all right, Carter. I'm already elected. I get to say, I get to make all these promises. We're excited about Carter Turner and his race for sure. He's got Republicans, all kinds of independents supporting him all across the board for sure. Next up, you know, what I love about our 3 congressional candidates in this region, Leslie Coburn, Jennifer Lewis, and Anthony Flaccavento, is they're running 3 real, honest, progressive campaigns that are really telling it like it is, and they're telling it in a way that's really connecting with folks, for sure. When we elected a record number of women to the Virginia House of Delegates, when we elected these women, all kinds of conversations changed instantly. I mean, I used to have certain conversations and I'd get up and I'd make a certain point and, you know, certain caucus members would be like, whatever. And then we elected a public defender out of Northern Virginia. And she came in and she's like, I'm not going to have any of that. All of a sudden, everybody's mind started changing. I'm like, thank you for your perspective. Thank you for standing up. And these are not people who just got elected because they're women. They're changing policy because of who they are, because of what they bring to the table. And what you can honestly say about Jennifer is that you clearly know where she stands all the time. And she's anxious to have those conversations because she brings a different perspective as a mental health worker. And I'm not going to take her joke away, but you all know. Maybe I will. She always says, there's never been a better time to send a mental health worker to Washington. Jennifer Lewis, everybody.
So, thank you all for being here. So often somebody will see me
me, out in the grocery store, out and about, and they'll come up to me and they're like, "How are you?" And they look so sad and sympathetic because they don't think we have a chance. I know, that is very sad. So I really wanted to come here tonight because you all know my platform. I've been here so often that my phone actually registers that I live here in Roanoke now, just so you all know. So you all know my platform, what I stand for. I wanted to share just a couple of stories from the road so you all have hope. Because we're out canvassing every day. I'm doing a small business tour, meeting with small businesses. We're doing a school tour, meeting with superintendents and principals and having tours of schools. And the energy out there, people, the energy is amazing. So when people say, "Oh, you must be so tired," don't get me wrong, I'm tired. But knowing that you all are supporting us and supporting our movement, and you're out there, all of you are out there with our t-shirts on, and you're canvassing every day, you're talking to your neighbors. I just want you all to know that that keeps me motivated. That keeps my energy level up. So thank you all so much for everybody that's out there working their tails off to make this happen. I appreciate you all so much. So just a couple of short stories about my experiences on the campaign trail, because again, I want to give you all hope that not only do I think that we can win this, I think we're going to crush it. So I was canvassing out in Dayton, and that's a little, it's kind of near Harrisonburg, historically very Republican, very conservative. So I pull into a driveway, and this woman is out gardening. I don't know why, it was freezing cold. She had her gloves on, she's bundled up, but she is gardening. And as I pull in the driveway, she just yells my name. She said, "Jennifer, I'm so glad you're here." I was so surprised that she knew who I was, and I said, "All right, well, what's your passion?" And she said, I'm voting for you because you want to legalize marijuana. It's not a joke because it gets very serious. She explained that her husband had colon cancer and had 2/3 of his colon removed. And she gave me permission to tell this story. He had 2/3 of his colon removed. And since that happened, his body can't process pain pills. So he literally suffers every day when they know that medical marijuana could help his pain and suffering. So we have this great conversation. The husband comes out and he says, "I need relief. I suffer every day. Not only can my body not process pain pills, I don't even want to take them because I don't want to become addicted." So they asked for a yard sign, we put it up in the yard, and then the wife says, "Well, my neighbor voted for Trump, but I think you should talk to her." So of course, for those who don't know, my saying throughout this campaign is, "What's the worst that's going to happen?" So she walks me over to introduce me to the neighbor who voted for Donald Trump. And she opens the door and we have this great conversation. And she said, "I wasn't even going to vote in this election. But not only do I want to vote, I want to vote for you, and can you put a yard sign in my yard?" That's right. And 2 years ago, she had a Trump sign in her yard. 2 years later, she has a Jennifer Lewis sign in her yard. But that just speaks of the importance of reaching out to every person we can reach out to. Because you never know what the issue is that's going to get them to change their minds about who they need to vote for. I had another experience in Harrisonburg, within the city limits. I knock on this door, and for some reason when people see me, they just automatically assume I'm a Democrat. I don't know if I look a certain way. I don't know. So the man opens the door and he immediately says, "I voted for Donald Trump." He said, "Okay, what are you passionate about?" And don't laugh, this is not a joke. He said, "Corruption." Who did that? I said, "Don't laugh." He said his number one issue was corruption. So I talked to him about our campaign, not taking any corporate PAC money. We're really passionate about campaign finance reform. And again, he said, "I'll consider voting for you." He didn't say he was going to show up and vote for us, but he was open to the idea of maybe considering to vote for a Democrat. And that's what we need. only count on Democrats to win this race, we're not going to win. We've got to reach out to those people. We have such a low voter turnout, not only just here in the 6th District, it's a problem all across the country, that we need to reach out to those voters. What do you care about? What are you passionate about? 95% of the time when you approach someone and you say, what's your biggest concern? It's health care. It's health care. Our opponent voted against Medicaid expansion every opportunity he had. Until this day, he still says one of his top things that he wants to do if he were to win is to repeal Obamacare, repeal the Affordable Care Act. That would mean more than 30,000 people in our district losing their health care. I just don't understand. Again, I'm not talking to just Democrats. I'm talking to anybody who is willing to talk to me. If people's #1 issue is health care, how is the answer taking away health care? It doesn't make sense. And for folks down here, we did an event up in Lexington, and that's where our opponent lives, and has served as House of Delegates for about 15 years. So they know his voting history. I don't know if you all know his voting history, but he's pretty extreme. He voted for the invasive ultrasound bill. He authored the Day of Tears bill. He voted to shackle impregnated women who are incarcerated while they went through childbirth. Because he thought if they were going to ever flee, during childbirth would be the time that they tried to run away. Now, most of you know I don't have any children. I'm just going to guess that during labor is the last time I'm going to think about fleeing. This is someone who does not seem to care about people's lack of health insurance, mental health needs, all of these things that we all care about so much. The environment. We had a debate on Monday in Lynchburg. Hope you all watched the video of it. Thank you, Darius. I knew you would. He said, we need less government, less government, less government. So then I stood up, I had 2 rebuttals, so I said, well, you talk about less government, but you seem to be okay with less or more government being in women's lives. Yeah. So what's the difference? Then when it got to the pipeline question, he said, energy by any means necessary, we need energy independence. And someone said, well, what about the threat to our water? Is it going to be safe? He said, well, don't worry, those government regulatory agencies will take care of that. You just said less government. So when I was able to get up and do my answer to the pipeline question, I pointed out, and there was these 2 young men sitting 2 rows back, and they both had our opponent's sticker on. And so I stood up and I said, did you all know that our opponent voted in favor of giving the fossil fuel industry the right to come take your land? He gave the fossil fuel industry the right to come onto your land for a for-profit corporation and take your land. These 2 young men, their jaws dropped. The man whose sticker they were wearing, they didn't even know what he stood for. So again, I go back to, it's so important that we have these conversations with people. So many people just blindly vote for a party over a candidate, over an issue. And so in order to break that, we have to have really tough conversations with people. And it's not easy. It's not. But we've got to do it. If we want to save our democracy, if we really want true representation, whether it's in Washington or Richmond, we've got to have these conversations about the things that we value. Do we value everybody having access to health care and mental health care and addiction services? That's what we value. So if you value that, you have to vote Democratic. If you value taking care of the environment, investing in renewables, making sure the next generation has clean air and clean water, then you've got to vote Democratic. If you care about fair wages and a living wage and workers' rights, you have to vote Democratic. And that's why my final plug to get all of you, everybody in this room, it's a lot of people in this room.
Really so awkward.
If every one of you talks to 5 or 10 people. Tonight, tomorrow. We don't have a lot of time. We got 7 days after tonight's over. Today's already gone, so let's just say 7 days. We have 7 days to pull this off. Nobody thinks we can do it.
We can do it.
But we can. Because I am working my tail off, but it's not just that. I know all of you are working your tails off. And I don't take that for granted. So again, I appreciate all of you and everything that you're doing, because with your help, we will finally flip the 6 to blue for good. Thank you, everybody.
All right, give it up for Jennifer Lewis. So we're going to get the crowd pumped up for Senator Kaine. When I say blue, you say tsunami. Blue. Tsunami. Blue. Tsunami. Blue. Tsunami. So there's this guy, his name's Senator Kaine. I've got socks in his honor. Most awesome dad. Actually, my kids gave him to me for Father's Day. And I'm like, oh, that's definitely a Senator Kaine thing. You know, Senator Kaine talks about not just talking about the issues, but tell people why you're actually fighting. Right? You talked about put the grocery list away for a moment of all the issues and let people know where you're coming from. And if you really think about it, the reason why this crowd is full tonight and proud to support Jennifer Lewis, Tim Kaine, Carter Turner, is because we like them as people. They are good human beings. And boy, today, more than maybe any time in recent memory, we need some good humans. Some good human beings who are thinking about what is best for all of us. What is best for all Roanokers? What is best for all Virginians? And Tim Kaine, with his lifetime of service and the legacy of service as a mayor, as governor, as a senator, and now being reelected, has that legacy. Why don't we do it one more time? What are we for? A blue.
Hey guys, how about Sam Rasoul? He is pretty amazing. You guys are really lucky. You guys are really lucky to have Sam representing you in Richmond, but he needs a partner, right? So you got to have Carter Turner come up with him. It's so nice to be here back in the Star City, a place that I love, a place where my wife grew up, where we have so many good friends. There's folks in this audience I've known from before. I even got into city council. There's folks that are related to my wife. There's people who worked with me when I was governor. And it's just so good to be back here. Some of you were at our kickoff event in April at the Transportation Museum. That was now 7 months ago. It's gone by like that. But I really tell you, anytime I come to Roanoke and do events, my heart is always very full because of the friends that I have here. How about a round of applause for Abby and everybody in the Soaring Ridge family? It's a great place to gather. I love being with Steve. Give Steve as our city chair a great big round of applause. Steve, thank you. To my friend Sherman, once a mayor, always a mayor. You know the most challenging job in politics, the one title that I would hold on to if they took every other title away from me, I'd hold on to the title of mayor. It's just such a fantastic thing that you do for the city. To Juna and Joe, Vice Mayor and Councilwoman. There's Juna and Joe's back here somewhere. Thank you guys for your fantastic service. I do feel excited with 8 days left. what I'm seeing in early voting, what I'm seeing in registration, what I'm seeing in energy. Jennifer and I have done 3 events now today. We did a couple events last week in the extremely Republican jurisdictions of Page and Shenandoah counties. We have fantastic crowds. So I'm seeing a lot of positive energy, but I got to tell you, last week was a very, very hard week. And if you want to really grapple with what's at stake, we got to confront the ugliness of last week. On Monday, I got a pipe bomb in the mail, George Soros, that triggered a wave of people getting bombs in the mail. George Soros is somebody that the other side likes to demonize for one reason and one reason alone. He's a Jewish immigrant. There's plenty of wealthy people who do plenty of stuff, but George Soros, the other side has a particular focus on George Soros. The U.S. government had to pull down a government radio program today, Radio Marti, which is a Spanish language broadcasting in Cuba. This is U.S. tax dollar stuff. When it was discovered that on a government-funded program in Cuba, they were talking about George Soros, U.S. tax dollars, as an immigrant Jew and criticizing him as an immigrant Jew. And when it was called to their attention, they pulled it down. But that's how last week started. A week ago today, a pipe bomb to a guy who's being targeted because he's Jewish and he's an immigrant. And then those pipe bombs continued to arise. A lot of people were African-American leaders. Maxine Waters, 2 pipe bombs. President Obama, Eric Holder, Kamala Harris, Cory Booker, all friends of mine. Others, too, targeted just because in this country that says we believe in a First Amendment, they had been critical of an administration. And so they end up getting pipe bombs in the mail because they were critics of the president. In the middle of last week, somebody with a gun tried to get into an African-American church in Kentucky to kill people when the